Note that there's a lot of light coming over here, which is messing up a lot of the exposure for this, but granted, I'm recording in my room on a laptop webcam. It's as best as it's going to get. This video, I want to go into asking a question, I guess. If you've been at an animation class here at UC, if you have the Animator Survival Kit in your possession, which is a book that you should get, and I will link in the description below. If you have none of those, maybe you just looked at the history of animation and wanted to learn more about it. You may, out of any of those scenarios, encountered this, which is now on the screen rather than my face. That is what we call an Xsheet, which was a way for animators to have a timeline. Nowadays, it's not so much a thing anymore. We have, I don't know, I guess the modern timeline, which you would see in a lot of animation software, which is pretty much the standard now. But it was very key in the time when animation was primarily 2D based, specifically, like, I don't know, when Disney would do paper and pencil frame by frame animation. Because the description for an Xsheet is really known as a simple form where animators would write down the action and dialogue for a given scene, or just the general information for shooting. So I guess in terms of what each frame, what each layer of animation meant, and how the camera was supposed to move along with all the drawing and action going on at the same time. So I gave you, I guess, that explanation. Now what I want to do is really go into showing you an Xsheet and how it functions, and at least maybe think of why it was so relevant maybe at least a decade ago or something like that, and why we have moved on from it since then. So as you can see, oh, wait a minute, this is the list of my exes. I don't know how this got there. Guess you could still say, though, it is an Xsheet. Now, this list is fake. I just made it for the simple joke that was kind of crummy, and I'm sorry to put you through that. Although, if this list was actually real, I'm very sorry for whoever Karen was to this person. Now we can move on to an actual Xsheet, and this is what it looks like. And what I want to do now is just basically go through each bit of it and describe what it would do. So, for every horizontal line that you see in this whole chart, that acts as just one frame of film. So if we were to just scroll down through the whole thing, look how many frames of film that can be, especially in terms of animation, because you require a lot of frames and a lot of layers and whatnot to get a seamless animation across. And then as you can see, you've got all these little numbers here, and those just represent, those columns represent cells and can actually be called layers or levels of just animation that are there at your disposal. Normally, in my experience, and then I believe for a lot of professionals and such, they will only ever use really one or two, but 5 of them are there in total, just in case they would need it. So now we can move on to this. So this here is the action column, and that is where you can just generally plan out movements and maybe specific descriptions of what is going on in each shot itself, and how the animators and people compiling it all together can plan accordingly to it. Next, we have the dial column, which is all about, which is in case the measurement of the pre-recorded dialogue or even music if it's overgoing. So as you can think of, let's just say, I don't know, I start this dialogue of 2 people, and let's say, I don't know, it takes up these layers of animation, and then it spans, I don't even know, all the way down there. Essentially what I'm doing when it stretches or goes down the column, if I have an arrow like this, is really saying, for this one action shot, or this scene of 2 people talking, it is gonna last for this many frames. And what this whole dialogue thing is when people are actually talking, or maybe there's just music going on in the background, is that is what that allows it to do. So you can stretch all the way constructs us all the way down there. So just in terms of how the people are moving in the shot in this conversation, this actually lets you know, I don't know how long that actual dialogue or that audio is, how long the music for the given scene is supposed to last as well. And then I guess the final component of this is we have the camera instructions. So this is specifically for, in an animation. It's not like a live action film where you have the camera and it's moving along with its main person, but that you have somebody behind the scenes who I guess is acting like that whole camera movement you would see in a live action movie. And just in this column here, there's just specific instructions for that cameraman that you could call them as they're compiling this whole animation together, is how the actual camera moves throughout this scene that's been drawn, and how it could maybe resemble if it were a live action scene, or just wildly exaggerated in terms of how they want the pacing for the film to go. Anything else? Looks like, so the sheet, the actual sheet number of, this is specifically for this one big scene of like a fighting sequence or something. They can at least title that I don't know, is like it's sheet number 5 in the movie. I know movies are longer than that, but whatever. And then it can specifically say the scene, what it is, I guess the sequence of shots, and just production that need to go with it. So at least that's just a simple explanation of what the Xsheet looks like and how it functions. But now I actually want to show you what we can still have in some software is how it actually would be applied to 2D animation per se. Now here we are in the 2D animation program that I use called OpenToons. Just a little bit about it is that it is a 2D digital program for animation. It's open source, which means it's free. And I'll even include in the description of this video, if you're interested, you can download it and look about it on your own. But that's at least what I'm using. So what's interesting about what OpenToons can do is that it can include the regular timeline for an animation, like a lot of you are probably used to already. But then it can also include, or what it does right off the bat, is it has an Xsheet, which in this day and age isn't really the norm, I guess I should say. But in that case, they still use it to its advantage. And I guess I'll just show you a little bit of how it can be applied, or what it looks like in action. So we can, got the drawing thing here, I don't know, we can try going for like a simple ball bounce. So at least how it has it set up is that, it's got each of its columns, it's representing the one frame of animation itself. Curious to what that says. Okay, so yeah, just a frame. And then what we can do from there is really just see how Xsheet functions as we're in the middle of making this animation. So I'm gonna just do something simple. We can start with the ball bounce. Now it's not gonna look pretty or perfect or anything, but I think it'll give you an idea. So we'll start off. I would just say ball there. Wow, that was drawn pretty slowly. Doesn't seem to want to work too well today, but whatever. So then we've got our first frame on our first layer per se. So these columns, I guess, act as the layers. And then let's see, so we've got it up there. Generally what we want to do is have its first squash. I'm not actually using a decent amount of what timing has or anything per se, but we can go all the way down to, let's see, this guy. So let's see, out of reference, or maybe just for the fact I want, which is weird because I'm thinking about like, oh, onion skin should be there and everything, but maybe it's not, so we don't need to worry about this. Then we can just apply it to where got ball squash there. It's not great, but that'll do. Then we can go, so we've got that squash there, go a couple of frames later, have ball all the way up there. 18, about 19, things like that. Really, there could be more ways to actually make this proper animation. I am really just all about eyeballing it, but not to try and look fancy or anything. So we've got the ball up there. That's pretty small, but at least what you can see is the whole process. You can press play and they are showing that whole process of what that football bounce looks like. It's not perfect, but I think it at least lets you know that how an Xsheet in this sense and what digital programs, if they do use them nowadays, how it actually functions. But at least what I want to do now is compare if it's an Xsheet, which what used to be, this is now what it is. So you can typically see this in a lot of, or almost any animation program I can think of. Adobe Animate, Toon Boom, OpenTunes, in fact, Maya or Blender. Those are two 3D programs, but they use a timeline in a sense. So what we can break it down is what was an Xsheet and is now used in timeline in a sense is that so each column of cells that an Xsheet uses, it actually translates down to this whole layer, which you can see on this timeline. So for each column, it acts as a layer which horizontally, would stack and stack and stack and stack, even though we just have one there. And then that moves. I have it like that, but you can move later on into the frame. And as you can see, the duration of the whole animation. So in its column, if it was an Xsheet, that can show pretty much as this goes horizontally across. Really, it doesn't include a lot of things in terms of maybe specifically like what the background is or anything per se, because largely enough you would have on its own layer drawing a background, and then from there you make other layers to actually have the animation on top of it. What it does have is where there would be a camera column on an Xsheet, it seems to have that here. I'm just selecting to see if it does anything. It really doesn't, but that's in a sense the layer for the camera. Which, in any case, I believe that's all I had for this video, really. Didn't try to make it too long. I just wanted to show you the simple examples of it. Hopefully it was a decent explanation of what an Xsheet can be, but I'll include some more videos in terms of how an Xsheet is explained. But even then, I'll in the description have the a link if you want to buy the Animator Survival Kit, which is essential for a lot of animators if you're serious about animating, just in terms of knowing various topics of animation, which I guess included a little bit of the Xsheet, so you can learn more about it there. But then other than that, I'll also have in the description any news or anything pertaining to the club. So I feel like I've ran a bit longer than I wanted to in this video, but hopefully it was useful in a sense, and so enjoy, or thanks for watching, and I'll just see you in the next video.